Hi guys, it's Mark from minipond.com, your trusted resource in the UK for ponds and water features. What I've got behind me is we've got the lockdown pond, and what we're doing today is we're repotting some water lilies out of the lockdown pond. So these particular water lilies I bought late in last year. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about which containers I prefer to use, which soil media I prefer to use, and also I'm going to show you how to pot or repot a water lily and the reasons why you should be repotting a water lily. So let's jump straight in. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is what containers do I use for water lilies. In today's video we're talking about hardy water lilies, so I'm going to be looking at shallow rooting water lilies. So what I actually love to use is I love to use buckets. This is a 5 gallon or a 10 litre, 15 litre bucket that I use. It's not got any holes in, as you've probably seen, where the retail plants are in perforated pots. Now, as you can see with this one, it's got hardly any soil inside here still, because the fish, what they do is they suck at the side of the pot and pull the grubs, microorganisms, even the soil, and it pollutes the water. Yes, there's a bit of rock and gravel on the top, and that does provide a little bit more anchorage, but the reason why I steer clear of perforated pots is because the fish can attack the sides or media can leach out. If I'm using perforated pots, then I do use the Aquatic Safe pond protection or underlay, and this one is a black one, so this is a fleece material. When I use bigger lilies, I use the buckets and they're solid, and the reason why I use this particular bucket is because I can put the fertiliser straight down the bottom and it's not going to leach out into the pond because there's no holes in the container. So if I was doing much bigger ones in a bigger pond, I would use a bigger container. This one here is actually, it's a bamboo pot that we buy. When we get bamboos, we get them in the big tough pots, and as you can see, they're really tough. They're, again, a squat pot. They're not like your normal garden centre pot where they're very flimsy and flexible. This would be okay if you cut it down, but there's some big holes, so again you would need to use Hessian or protection to stop the media and stop the nutrients from leaching out. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to put some fertiliser in the bottom. Now when you're using fertiliser, this is a 1 year feed, so there's got everything in here for 1 year of fertiliser. So I'm going to use, it comes with a scoop in the packet. I'm going to use 5 scoops in this 10 litre container, and as you can see there's granules in here. If you can't get hold of the Aquascape fertiliser, what you can use is you can use Osmocote or Nutricote in this particular application. I wouldn't use them in the mesh baskets again unless you're using some form of protection so it doesn't leach out, because the last thing you want to be doing is putting food in there to turn your pond green. Some people use gravel, some people use cobbles in a koi pool. I know lots of people that just literally throw loads of rocks in here and allow the water lilies to grow out of the pot, and that's okay if you've got fish feces. I cover the growing plants in gravel in another video. I'll put it in the description below or in the comment section if you want to know where the link is. I'll put it in the comments. But in this particular video we're looking at the best thing for water lilies, not necessarily will they survive. So I've got the pepper and salt dusting in the bottom of the container. Now the next job is to use the growing media. What I like to use is I like to use a cricket wicket loam The reason why I like to use this is it's a fantastic lime grade. It's lovely sandy soil. It's perfect for grass. Hence the reason why they use it in cricket wickets. There are a lot of aquatic soils available and they are sandy loam based. You don't want to be going and getting compost from the garden centre, a peat based or a soil based, because it's got far too much organic matter in there. You don't want to be using bark, you don't want to be using peat, anything that's buoyant that will float up out of the pot. Fish will get in there, currents will get in there, and you don't really want anything to be floating and buoyant. The lilies are buoyant on their own. So you want something heavy, you want something gravel, you want it all to be mulched on the top to stop those floating bits coming out of the lily basket. So what I like to do is I like to put in a couple of scoops of the cricket wicket lime. Then I'll mix it around a little bit before adding a few more scoops of the Aquascape fertiliser. And then what I do is I come over the top. More cricket wicket lime. And what I do is I fill the container right up to about 3/4 of the way to the surface. Looking at the pot that I'm repotting and making sure that there's enough adequate. This particular lily now, as you can see, it's started to get to the edge of the pot. This is a classic sign that the pot needs repotting. What they do is they want to grow horizontally, and as you can see here, you've got the new growth. Some people leave the media on, some people take it off. I prefer to take it off, so what I do is I actually just take off the media, so then I can see what's going on, make sure that I'm not keeping hold of anything that I don't want to keep hold of. As you can see with this one, what we've got is we've got the old part of the rhizome and it's completely rotten. Look at that. What we don't want to keep is we don't want to keep that. So I discard the rotten piece. So now what we've essentially got is we've got the live section. This is the growing tip and you can see the feeding roots. This is how the water lily wants to grow along. They want to grow along the surface of the substrate like they're creeping along. So what they do is they grow along the surface. These bigger roots are simply last year's and they're for anchorage only. So I always remove them just to neaten up the rhizome a little bit. As you can see there, it's just neatened it right up and it's ready to go in the basket. With the old one, the lily was right up against the edge. Now what I want to do is I want to plant it on the opposite side so the rhizome can grow all the way along to the other side. And a lot of people put them into the center and they put them vertically, or they don't really care how they grow them. But hardy water lilies, they want to grow horizontally and they want to go to the edge of the pot, so then it doesn't limit the amount of growth. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to bury the rhizome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the rhizome now in the container and I'm going to put some more media in. So now you might be saying, well, the fertiliser is all the way down near the bottom of the pot, and that's where the roots want to end up. That's where the feeding roots will end up. What I don't want to do is I don't want to burn new roots. So if I was potting up eyes, for instance, and they weren't mature plants, I would not be using 5 scoops. I'd be using 1 scoop of the 1 year fertiliser. You want to give the amount of food for the 1 year. This is 1 year. You can use different types of water lily food. You can put Osmocote or Nutricote or the Aquascape granules inside a clay ball. So what you do is you make a clay disc, then form a ball the same sort of size as a large ping pong ball or something like that, like a tangerine size, and then you can push them straight into the soil on the bigger baskets. Then the lily roots will go into that and feed, and it doesn't leach out into the soil. What we do on the bigger pots like this is we put bigger pebbles. So now we're on to the mulching section. What I've got here behind me is an array of different mulches that I use. So we use Icelandic pebble, normal 20mm gravel, the pebble that comes from Scotland. This is sort of like 28mm, 30mm Scottish pebble. Then you've got the cobbles. I'm going to use the cobbles on this application and then probably put a mixture of these ones on top just to stop the fish, just to stop the soil leaching out. The smaller grade aggregate won't stop the water lily from growing, but the big stones, it just keeps it weighted down and it keeps the goldfish from flicking, and some of these fish are getting bigger in this particular pond now. Now I'm going to arrange the stones. I'm going to put the bigger ones at the back and around the side so it doesn't impede the growth. The growth is going to come this way, and I'll put the smaller ones So what you're trying to aim for is a good layer of mulch over the top without burying the rhizome. So I'm going to actually lift the rhizome up slightly just to allow some more aggregate. So I'm not burying the rhizome itself. So I'm only using the different types just to make it a little bit more decorative and to keep it in keeping. I'm going to move the bigger stones away from where the lily is going to start growing, making sure that we've got some big ones on top so it doesn't start floating out, making sure that the water lily leaves are out and open. So there we go. So this video has been how to repot your water lilies. I've talked about which baskets I like or which containers I like. There are readily available pre-made ones that you can buy from Aquascape, and this is what I'm going to actually use. I'm going to use one of these canvas bags, and they're actually like a pillowcase. So this canvas bag is actually like a form of sack with a drawstring, which is great. So again, I'm going to put in a couple of scoops of the fertiliser. So now I'm going to be potting up the miniature water lily in this bigger bag. I'm not going to remove the lily from its original pot because it's a miniature. What I don't want to do is I don't want to go in there with my great big hands and disturb too much of it. Mixing in the fertiliser, because it's not a solid pot, because it's a canvas pot, what I'm actually doing is I'm mixing this up so the fertiliser's in the bottom half of the actual container. So what I've done is I've put 3 in there already. I'm going to put another layer in now. So it's just like salt and pepper or sugar on your cornflakes. And that's the once a year fertiliser in there. The reason why I like the drawstring method on these particular bags is because what I can do is I can literally draw the canvas bag around the actual pot itself. So what I'm trying not to do is I'm trying not to disturb too much, because they are delicate and I don't want to damage any of this. As you can see, there's a lot more foliage on this miniature water lily, and I'm going to drawstring it up, so that's okay. That's about the right height. Now I can fill around there with more soil. And again, I'm using cricket wicket loam. On these drawstring bags, you don't need as much mulch because the bag will come all the way around. So there we go, making sure it's nice and compact. And then on these little folds I put some more boulders, cobbles. So there we go, there's a lovely compact water lily planter from Aquascape, using the Aquascape once a year fertiliser, and we're using cricket wicket loam or aquatic soil. The reason why you want to go for aquatic soil, just touching back on that subject, the aquatic soil has got chelated iron inside the actual soils to keep a lot of the fertiliser inside the media. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're going to go and repot your lilies. This is the perfect time. We're in June, we're in early June. Now is the time for the growing season. The lilies will be sat dormant if they're waiting for you to feed them. So if your water lilies aren't growing or they're not performing as well, they're producing a lot of leaves, hardly any flowers, you want to start repotting your water lilies. Feed your water lilies, whether it's fish food, so then the fish feces feeds the water lilies. They take their nutrients from the actual soil, from the actual basket. As the water lily leaves grow up to the surface, they start breathing in. So what you mustn't do is put your newly potted water lilies right down in the depths. If you've got a 3 foot, a 2 foot deep pond, you want to put them on a shelf to start with and lower them down gradually. As I touched on, you might have missed it, the new leaves inhale air. So they come up to the surface like a snorkel, they start breathing air in and they start to grow. The only way a water lily leaf can breathe in air is reaching the top. So if you put them too deep, these ones want about 20 centimeters of water. That's it. Yes, they will survive in 40 to 45 centimeters, 18 inches. If you're in a warmer country, you want to be adding a lot more food, then they may get a lot bigger. If you've got them in a bigger basket, you can have them in deeper water because you've only got 20 centimeters over the top. So my name is Mark, the Pond Advisor, and I'm here to support you dream, plan and enjoy ponds and water features. Until next time, thanks for watching.